Happy Monday, everyone. Today is Monday, it's May the 18th, and it is the eve of what can be probably the most contentious congressional race that is going to occur for 2026. And that race is going to be between Congressman Thomas Massie and his challenger, Trump endorsed challenger, Ed Gallrein. My name is Shalal with POPANALYSIS, guys, and I am focusing in covering UltraMaga season. Yes, because I think UltraMaga season is back. If we are thinking about what just happened in Indiana, and not to go into detail, what just happened on Saturday night with the Louisiana Senate race with Bill Cassidy, who was defeated by Trump endorsed candidate Julia Letlow. So that could serve as a signal or a bellwether. But I think even more so, what will really serve as a bellwether is going to be tomorrow's primary in Kentucky between Thomas Massie and Ed Gallrein. Now, there's a lot of different sides on this thing. There is information that says that Thomas Massie votes with Trump 91% of the time, 86% of the time. The numbers could fluctuate depending on the source and where you're getting this information from. However, the most important thing is, I think, something I heard from JD Vance that was said months ago, which was that Thomas Massie essentially, on the things that actually matter, he was a no vote. Now, you have to negotiate these things in the background, right, before you get a vote. And I imagine that there's phone calls, there's emails, there's strategy sessions, there's lots of communications before things are finalized. But the bottom line is what JD Vance was saying was that on all the things that matter, having to do with the Trump agenda, Thomas Massie has voted no on. But then in the state of Kentucky, you also have to examine and look at the way that your voters are voting. Are they extremely supportive of President Trump? Yes, they are. And I don't have the numbers up on my screen right now as far as the margins that Kentucky voted for Trump in. But what we do know is that is a solid red state, right? So you have to be paying attention to your constituents, the people that elect you to be in office, to support them, right? You're representing them before you're representing your own interests. Of course, you are able to have your own principles. And I think for Massie, I think Massie has been governed by his own principles and doesn't know how to suspend them and put them to the side. I think there's pride and I think there's ego involved in this. And it's stated that Massie is getting 79% of his support from liberal groups and Democrats. Now, I don't know if that's a fact. I just recently heard that on the PBD podcast, but it's alleged. It's been noted and mentioned that he's getting support from liberal groups and Democrats. And if that's the case, then it's like, then why not just be a Democrat, right? Why not just be a Democrat? That might sound extreme, and I know that's not exciting to say who just wants to be a Democrat. But the thing is that you are a registered Republican. And I think the truest thing that is true for this season is that loyalty is important. And they talk about loyalty like it's something bad. And the truth is this: when you are working under a business, when you are partnering up with people who are working together with you with a common cause to actually achieve and accomplish something, loyalty is very important. It's important. And considering what Trump went through, none of these Congress people, none of these elected senators, no politician was put through what Trump was put through for the last 10 years, a decade. For the last 10 years, maybe even 11, because I mean, I think some of the harassment in the kind of spying thing went on from like 2015. No politician has went through what Trump went through. And he never deserved that. And I think he deserves loyalty. I absolutely believe wholeheartedly he deserves loyalty because no matter what you think about 2020, there was a lot of weird, crazy, strange things that went on and cost us, the Republican Party, 4 years. 4 years of agenda, 4 years of policy, 4 years of implementation of things that would probably have changed the trajectory of the country. But we are in the season that we're in now. And right now, you have to support your team and you have to support your party. And so I also view Massie's this congressional race as a bellwether between the MAGA wing and the what we would call, maybe I'm going to call the 2016 progressive wing, because I don't even believe the progressive wing of the party, whatever it used to be, is what it is today. I think they were maybe, somewhat maybe a little bit more modest and maybe libertarian kind of. Like I think that's how Massey's kind of trying to portray himself to be. But I feel like this is a bellwether between the MAGA wing and the progressive wing. And I say that for this reason. Back in 2017, when I initially started really doing any YouTube videos and talking about politics in general, I was talking about a coalition that needed to happen between progressives and conservatives because I found that there were similarities. There were things that they could agree on, that they could support. They were anti-war. At that time, when you had Bernie Sanders running, and I was a Bernie Sanders bro, by the way, when you had Bernie Sanders running and you had Trump running, they were both against, what was it? It was like NAFTA on steroids. And it basically was about transferring American jobs overseas. Something like that. I can't remember the name of, let me see if I can find it. What was it? I can't remember. And if you guys do remember, please note it in the chat because I can't remember the name of it. It was the TPT, something like that. I'll find out. Trump was against it, so was Bernie. And Trump stood his ground and he actually, I think he vetoed it and there was no interest in it. So that wasn't implemented in our country. So Bernie Sanders largely was looked as the populist on the left side and Trump the populist on the right side, right? Trump won. Thank goodness Trump won because Bernie turned out to be nothing but a pathetic lapdog. That's what happened with him after, he basically bowed the knee for Hillary Clinton. That was it. He disappeared. He was out, stomping for the Democrats, and that was that. And I lost all complete respect for that side of the party. I would never, ever support a so-called progressive candidate like that ever again because I know that happened for a reason. Everything happens for a reason. Even 2020 happened for a reason because I don't think that we would have the support, the MAGA wing, or this MAGA party would have the support that it has today had it not been for what had happened in 2020. So the way I'm looking at this when it comes down to Massie is that I'm going to be watching with popcorn tomorrow night. I'm going to really be watching all the returns from each of the states and watching this with popcorn. There's all these random people coming out all of a sudden for Massie. We know that there's been some allegations made about him and his relations. I found it particularly to be very strange about the fact that his wife had died and then all of a sudden, 2 months later, that he was dating or messing around with someone. I think he got remarried, but it was in a very short period of time, which makes me feel like maybe there were some things going on even prior to the wife dying, because it usually doesn't happen that quickly unless there's something already going on. So, hey, that could be a character issue. I'm not the person that's focused on people's personal lives and stuff like that, but makes you question it. He also got like a little slim, so maybe he was getting a little bit of Ozempic stuff going on, and then he came out as this new Thomas Massie. I don't know, but I'm just saying that's my feeling. That's what I'm watching, and this is a little bit of the pulse I have on it. So we will be waiting to see what happens tomorrow night. I will be watching with popcorn and maybe a little bit of wine. All right, moving on. Next, we are talking about the VRA. So the recent VRA decision. I know it's getting boring, but this thing is not going anywhere, okay? The left is inflamed and the right is justified, right? We are catching up. And I remember talking to my brother saying, the most consequential thing that has happened, at least for me, Trump has been the most consequential president of my lifetime. But maybe the most consequential thing that has happened was his implementation of the Supreme Court and appointing conservative judges on the Supreme Court. Because honestly, the Supreme Court has been delivering. I know everyone doesn't like the way everybody ends on these decisions and where they fall, but this Supreme Court has been delivering and interpreting the Constitution instead of trying to create a new Constitution. All right, so the immediate fallout, you can see it. It's everywhere. They are claiming black power is being taken, it's voter suppression, the Republicans are cheating. And this is going to have consequences for years, because everybody's kind of focused so much. We're focused on the South right now, right? Because we know that these race-based voting districts were drawn out in the South, right? Giving Democrats power in the South. But my question, and I may be wrong for the inquiry, is that how will the North respond, right? So are there racially gerrymandered districts in the North? I would have to think maybe there is, and I'm going to have to research that question. But if there are racially gerrymandered districts in the North, how will the North respond? Will there be challenges in the North? Will Republicans challenge, right, to the Supreme Court or make the claims and challenge racially gerrymandered districts in the North? That's what I'm interested in finding out about. I want to know if that's a thing. The other part is that we wonder as far as how will this affect the Black community and or so-called Black voting districts, whatever they're called. Will they look at this as suppression? Will they look at it as their votes being stolen and taken away? And it depends on who's doing the messaging, who's creating the narrative. So I feel like for me personally is that there needs to be more people who are of conservative leaning, maybe more Blacks, maybe more Latinos of conservative leanings who are willing to actually speak up more and cover the subject. Because literally they are using emotional outrage and manipulation, as they always do, to try to rile people up right now, to make them upset, to make them feel like something is being stolen from them. And they're tying it to, obviously, our shaded past, historically, things that happened to these communities, and trying to make people feel enraged about something being taken away from them. And so there's a messaging war that has to also be won. And I'm hoping that some more conservative voices continue to speak out about this. This is going to be the only way that we could debunk everything that the Democrats are basically trying to tell the public. The message and their messaging is trying to convey to everyone is that something's being stolen away from them, and it's not. It can't be anything that's further from the truth. So my interest is, who's going to win the messaging war for the communities that they're telling that they're being disenfranchised. Will it be our radical progressives, the AOCs, who are basically speaking out and trying to define and shape the narrative? Or will it be conservatives who will speak out and shape the narrative? And I'm hoping it's the latter, and I'm hoping we're louder. I'm hoping we're constantly talking about it, and I'm hoping that we continue to spread that throughout the hemisphere. And the last thing I'm going to say is this has to do with UltraMaga season. Okay, it is UltraMaga season. That is the feeling I have, because it's been a long time coming. This has been spoken about in the past, but I feel right now the people who are coming out to vote are actually UltraMaga, right? There's been talk about that turnout being low, these primaries, but the truth is that in the primaries, it's your hardcore base that actually comes out. And Trump's base is strong and powerful, and they have been coming out. That is what I feel. That is what I'm seeing. Tomorrow is going to be a different story. That's also going to be something to watch, and maybe probably one of the most watched congressional races because of how controversial it is. And did I forget to actually mention that actually Massie actually had the nerve to say this is the Epstein administration? Like, Trump was leading on some of this stuff, and maybe we didn't like the way that the revealing of the Epstein files, and there's still information that needs to come out. There's a lot of information that's being held and blocked by federal judges, right? And even the deputy director, the deputy FBI director, former deputy FBI director Dan Bongino, said that he gave Massie plenty of opportunities. Like, he didn't have to go on this, on this tirade out there with Ro Khanna, making it look as if they were holding information back, they weren't sharing information with them. He said that he was like giving him opportunities to come to private sessions or to his office, and the amount of times that he actually accepted it was 0. So he never actually went ahead and was able to gather this information in another setting, even though it was offered to him. He turned it down. So that's really questionable. At least, that's what Don Bongino said. But I believe what happened to Bill Cassidy is a bellwether. I think what's even more exciting is it tells me that the base is fired up. The base is fired up. And that's important because you need a fired up base. That is what's going to carry us through. We need turnout. This election needs to be an election of choice, right? Are you going to jump off the Trump train because certain things didn't happen in a timely fashion when you wanted it to happen? Are you going to stay, hold it out, and ride with him through this? I'm riding. That's all I'm saying is I'm riding with Trump, all right? And it's not fair that Trump's not getting people to actually support him the right way. Registered Republicans, all right? He's been sabotaged for years. He's been backstabbed for years. Trump deserves loyalty in this season. He deserves loyalty. And as far as Bill Cassidy, he's out of here. And I don't know if I'm a bullish, I'm a gambling woman with Massie. I'm going to say it's probably going to be close. But I think it's time for Massie to go down. I think he has to pay the price for not being loyal. And I think he had an option. He had choices in the past that he could have taken. But maybe he felt like he wanted to ride this wave and, he wanted to take his own separate path. And I think it's going to cost him. It may cost him. We will definitely see. Cornyn is probably as good as toast, but we will be focused on that too going forward. And this is UltraMaga season. I hope you guys will keep tuning in and checking in to see the takes as they come. And if you like this content, you like this video, please share, like, subscribe, and comment. I need engagement. That's what I really need, engagement on what you think about what I had to say today. All right, until the next time. Bye.